Hello everybody, my name is Variax. This is Deep Deadly Dungeons. This is a board game that I made with the help of a couple of very generous playtesters who have spent time doing so. And in this video, I will be just playing a couple of rounds of it in order to show you in a pretty casual, ad-lib, some might say unorganized way, how the game works. So I'm going to play the game by myself, but this is a cooperative game which you can play with your friends, from 1 to 6 players, though I will say it works better from 3 players plus, with one of you controlling one character. Currently, the game is coming along very nicely and is very close to how I want it to be. Production-wise, we're looking at the Tabletop Simulator version as it is now. It may well change in the future. As far as I know, all of the art in it is Creative Commons and I'm not infringing any copyright in using it. If I am, then please let me know and I will change it. There may be a couple of things here and there that I want to change and move around later, but pretty much the core gameplay will be the same. We're listening to music from Divinity, Original Sin 2, an excellent game. I shall link that in the description, as long as everything about the game and associated materials. So obviously this is the Tabletop Simulator version. There is no physical version yet. Well, there is, but it's very haphazard and made by myself. This was all made by myself as well, and I'm actually in the market for a graphic designer and or artist to come along and start making all this a little bit professional. So if you are one of those, or you know someone who is and might be interested, then let me know. I'm perfectly willing. Indeed, I would insist on paying for such a thing when we come to that kind of arrangement. All right, so as I said, Deep Deadly Dungeons is a cooperative game, so you and your friends play against the game in order to try and beat it. The game works in that you control a character and you face waves of enemies, and in doing so your character gets stronger and eventually your character will be able to complete the quest that they're on. If you complete the quest, then you win the game, and if you all die or you give up, then you lose. So the first thing that we have to do when we approach the game is decide which quest we want to do. There are 2 provided with the game currently. I'm also planning for to do more, and I'm planning to do more decks of enemies as well, because the enemies make the game as interesting and diverse as the characters. Currently we only have the undead deck, but I'm planning to introduce more as we move forward. So if we look at the two quests, the thing that we're really curious about here is the time to play and the difficulty. We want a shorter game than the 3 hours this will take, and also this one's supposed to be easy, whereas this one is hard. For the demonstrating purposes of this video, I will pick the easy one. So I'm going to move the Unknown Horror up here. That's been a very interesting playtesting tool. It's quite challenging, and a lot of the players that I played that with have found that, yeah, somewhat interesting. So we'll play the Undead King. It just goes here in the current adventure or current quest. I'm going to lock that into place. And then we place a grey block in the home space, so that represents where our characters are currently. They're at home, which means that represents a place that's safe, such as it could be a campsite, could be a village, could be a tavern, that kind of thing. Just somewhere where they can go back, they're not in danger of getting killed by the enemies. And who are our characters? So in this game, I am going to play 3 characters at once. You're perfectly, able to do that. If there's 2 of you, you could decide to play 2 characters each. But 3+, I would recommend 1 each, although you could play 3+, but this is a 6-player game max, or at least 6-character game max. But you can use whatever kind of combinations you want. But I'm going to play as 3 characters, because that's like a good mix. And as I say, it works best with 3+ characters, so you get a diverse mix and some interchanging abilities going on. So We can see we've got the soldier, the paladin, the cleric, the defender, the martial artist, and the dark mage, but these character cards are double-sided, so if someone was to pick the defender, they would not be able to play the paladin, sorry, the barbarian, and nobody would be able to play barbarian because it's this side is being taken. So when choosing a character, the players are encouraged to have a chat about which characters appeal, and the way you can do that is by reading this little blurb here. The defender is a bastion of defense, able to take damage in the place of allies. So if that's your bag, if that's what the thing that you kind of want to do, then say, yeah, I wouldn't mind being the defender, but someone might really want to be the barbarian, a reckless combatant with little regard to defense, able to deal damage to many enemies at once. This is all you need to worry about right now, and as you get together with your friends and play this, this is the bit that you should be arguing about. You don't have to worry about anything else at this stage. In this game, I'm going to play as, let's play as the paladin, which means we're not going to be the druid, so we'll be the paladin. We'll bring her along. The rogue, maybe. Alright, I want to be the assassin. We'll bring the assassin, and let's bring along the dark mage. So this is a quite diverse group. So I'm going to put the ones that we don't use over here. So this video obviously includes setup as well. I'm hoping to do 1 or 2 combats in a relatively short space of time, but I'm hoping to just show how easy this game is to set up and play, and hopefully learn as well. Like with every board game ever invented, pretty much except maybe Snakes and Ladders, all looks pretty complicated. There's a lot of things here, but it's a lot of simple things interwoven together. There are no complex maths involved, and everything should be really visible. So there'll be very little looking up the rulebook. If we need to, I've got it here in a PDF, so we can scroll through that as we need to. But now I'm going to ad-lib it because obviously I made the game. But everything in this is in the rules, which is also included right here as well. And there's a little rules reference there as well, which we may well use for things that happen quite often in the game. So we've got our 3 characters. So we've got an assassin who is a specialist in striking from the shadows to inflict terrible wounds on his enemies. We've got a paladin, a noble warrior, powerful in offense and defense with some skill in holy magic. And we've also got the Dark Mage, a combative spellcaster who flirts with the minion over death and the underworld. So quite a mix really, which is fun. So with our characters, we need to get their standees now. I should have said at the start that when you join the game, you'll have to assign yourself a colour in Tabletop Sim. And I'll do that now. I'm going to change the colour. So the player colours are blue, teal, green, yellow, orange, and brown. So when you bring yourself into the game, give yourself one of those colours because the other colours are assigned to the enemies. It's only for a reference thing. It doesn't have a huge impact in the game. I'm going to pick orange. Okay, so we're going to go and get our standees. So we need the assassin, the paladin, and the dark mage. The assassin and the dark mage actually look quite similar, so hopefully we don't get them mixed up. There's the assassin, there's the dark mage, and there's the paladin. Let's bring these down. And I'm going to now collect some tokens. In fact, let's check the rules for this bit. Because in the setup, this bit right here is done for us. We don't have to worry about this. This is all done in Tabletop Simulator. But this bit is the bit that each character does. So let's just take a little look. So each player takes their character's standee. Each player draws 3-way action cards and lays them face up by their character card. Okay, that's what we'll do now. Here are the action cards right here. I'll give them a shuffle. And we'll pick 3 for each character. So 1, 2, 3 for you. 1, 2, 3 for you. And 1, 2, 3 for you. Now we're not worried about what these do right now, but we are going to put them close to our character card. I just want that one. I just want one of them. Thank you. for reference in a bit. So yeah, we're not really particularly worried about what these do just yet. We're just drawing them because we need them at the start of the game for when the action begins. Okay, what next? Each player selects a color and takes the 2 tokens of that color. Okay, so I'm going to assign, let's see, so we'll make the paladin be a lovely dark blue color. We'll make the assassin be orange, I think. And we'll make the dark mage be brown. Now, because it's a tabletop sim and for the easy reference, I'm going to make these reflect these colors. So you're brown, you're blue. So in the physical version, there will be colored slots to put the standee things in. Good. All right. So what do we do with these? One of the tokens is placed near the initiative tracker on the main board. One of these tokens is placed in the bag. The bag is then placed near the game board. Okay. So we'll get the bag. It's just here. So this is for selecting random characters when we need to. So one of them goes in this. And then we'll just put these up by the initiative tracker on the board, which is at the top of the board up here. Good. The last thing we need to do is get some of these blocks. So these blocks represent various things in the game. The grey ones are just markers for things that do not refer to dice. You see the dice are different colours anyway. These blocks represent dice. But the grey ones just represent miscellaneous things that aren't dice. And we need to put a grey block on our max health and a grey block on number 1 on the grit tracker. So grit, health's obviously how healthy our character is. When you get damaged, you'll lose health. When you lose all your health, you are knocked out. You're not dead, at least not right away. But you're out the game for a little while, unless you get heal or revive yourself. Now grit is used both for rerolls and its experience as well. So if you manage to max out your grit, you will unlock an upgrade to make your character better at what they do. But if you spend grit on rerolls, it'll be harder to level up. So it's the trade-off between whether you want to do rerolls or level your character. So we're going to put these here. So the paladin also has max 4 health, and so does the dark mage. Some characters have 5 health, but we've picked 3 with 4. That is the setup. We are now ready to begin. We've picked a quest. We've got 3 characters. Each have 3 action cards. And they've got a standee, and we've put them at max health and 1 grit. Good. Now we can begin. So, we're currently in the home space. We can move along this path here to the beginner space. It's going to take a quick break while I clear my throat. Alright, sorry about that. So we've moved into the first room with the word beginner on it. Oh, we should have really read the quest, shouldn't we? An evil king has risen from his grave. Slay him, or the kingdom could fall to his evil power. So the aim is to reach and defeat the combat in room A to win the game. So we've got to get to this room here and defeat the combat. Once we've done that, the characters have won, so well done for them. Notes. Okay, so the first room contains beginner enemies equal to the number of characters. That's where we are now. And also there's an orange enemy in room A, which is here. This must be the White King. Do not determine this randomly as you would normally. Okay, so first room contains beginner enemies equal to the number of characters. So now we've moved into here. This is a large grey room, which means it's an encounter. It's a combat encounter, so we can start that. Let's get our reference sheet and see how we go about setting up an encounter. So, there's also a little guide there about where this appears in the rulebook if you need it, but this is just for reference. It's bullet points, and I think I can figure it out, hopefully. So, place characters within the party formation. So this is where we place our 3 characters on the board. This square here is the party formation. This represents them moving through the dungeon that they're in. It has a front, a right, a center, a left, and a back. We can place our characters anywhere that we want in here. The player controlling the character just decides where they're going to put them. So you could put them all in the front if you want, or in the center. It's entirely up to you guys where you place your characters. We're going to put the paladin in the front. I think the assassin will be lurking in the back, and we'll put our dark mage off to the right, I think. Yeah, we'll give that a go. Alright, now what? Shuffle the initiative, loot, and enemy cards. We'll do that then. Make sure there's no shenanigans. So we're going to shuffle all these enemy cards. See, it's already been done. Might as well shuffle these as well. And the loot cards. Good. Place enemies according to the adventure map. Okay, so the adventure map says that we contains beginner enemies equal to the number of characters. So these beginner enemies are just to set us going on our path. So these should be pretty easy to kill, and just like the tutorial, if you like, about how to play the game. So we're just gonna draw 3 of these because it's equal to the number of characters, which is 3. So we'll draw the first one, and here we have a enemy card, which is actually, to be honest, slightly outdated. So we can completely ignore, if I get a newer one out, there's a bit more on this, but we can completely ignore the bottom bit. I'll fix that when I upload this next or update it next. So ignore the bottom bit. Doesn't exist. So the bit that we're interested in is this F here, which says it spawns at the front. We've also got what kind of enemy it is, which is an undead. We've got its health here. This is its attack. This is its defense. So it rolls 1 white dice in attack, 1 white dice in defense. It's a skeleton. And then this here is the enemy color and its initiative modifier, which we'll worry about later. The thing that we're worried about, of course, is the F. It goes to the front, so we're going to place that there. We're going to do this 2 more times. This one spawns on the right. Spoiler warning, they're all skeletons. And this one spawns at the front, so we'll put it in slot number 2. So there we are. We have our combat set up. We've got 2 skeletons coming at us from the front, and 1's creeping in from the right-hand side. What's next? So place enemies in order: white, blue, green, and orange. These are white enemies, so we put them first. If there was more, then we'd put the white ones first, then the blue, then the green, then the orange. These are the weakest, these are the strongest, so the white ones come first. The weakest enemies spawn first. Enemies that don't find the spawn points will place enemies waiting. So if we had more than 3 enemies spawn at the front, for example, they go into here, and then they will come onto the board on later rounds. Finally, place loot on the board equal to the number and colours of enemies on the encounter. So there are 3 white enemies, so we are going to just draw 3 white loot cards. Good. Right then. Now we can begin. So the game works in that the players will plan what their characters are going to do. They should talk to one another about the tactics, or at least the target that they're planning on doing, although the target that they plan on attacking can change. So if you decide you're going to do an attack, for example, you don't have to attack the enemy in front of you. If it comes to your turn, that enemy is already dead, or you think there's a better target, you can change what you want to do, or what you're targeting, but you can't change the actions you have queued. So the first thing that we do is we draw an initiative card for each character. This is the first thing. So the Dark Mage has a starting initiative of 5, the Paladin has a starting initiative of 5, and the Assassin has a starting initiative of 9. So higher initiative goes first. Lower initiative obviously goes later. Characters with lower initiative are more likely to be attacked by enemies. So now that we know our starting initiative, we can plan our character's actions. So each character has a bunch of actions on their character sheet and some action cards. So on a character's turn, the player must assign an action and play an action card. So let's have a little look about what the assassin is going to do. Actually, we won't start with the assassin. We'll start with the paladin, because it's probably an easier thing to do for now. So the paladin can do all these attacks here, and every character has these 3 actions as well at the bottom. So the top actions here are unique to that character. So the Dark Mage has Steal Life, Death Gaze, Summon Demon, Dark Conduit, and Blindness. Whereas the Paladin has Feint Attack, Quick Strike, Smiting, Holy Boon, and Healing Hands. But every character has a generic attack, the ability to hide, the ability to move, and the ability to defend if they want to. These actions here can be played an infinite number of times in an encounter. These actions here that are unique can only be played a certain number of times in an encounter, which is a combat. And when they're used, they are blocked off to indicate they can't be used again. So we can have 2 Feint Attacks, but only 1 Holy Boon. Sorry, I was just having a cough there. A little congested, which is convenient, isn't it? So, yeah, so the assassin, so the paladin. So we're going to take one of these golden blocks. This golden block will represent what our character is doing this round. So we're facing 2 enemies. So why don't we just do a quick strike? Quick strike means that we will roll 4 blue dice against the enemy. Simply enough. It has an initiative of +2. We've already got 5, so that gives us an initiative of 7. But we also have to play an action card. Now these action cards were dealt randomly to us at the start of this this encounter. Once we've beaten these enemies, we can swap action cards and get new ones. But right now, we're stuck with what we've got. Now, we can use Skulker, which gives us +2 initiative and also a bonus to Subterfuge. Now, we're not using a Subterfuge, which is made on the hide roll, hide action, but we can still use this to get the +2 initiative. We just don't get this bonus. So our initiative for the paladin is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Very nice. So we're going to put her on 9. Now we'll do the assassin. So as we know, the assassin specializes in striking from the shadows to inflict terribly wounds on his enemies. So we're going to hide with the assassin. The assassin is going to try and make a subterfuge roll, and if they succeed, they can move to the hidden area, and from there he can do some neat stuff. So that's what our character is going to do. And let's have a little look about what we can do. We're going to do inspiration, which means that we get +1 initiative and a bonus to arc rolls, which is magic. So we're not doing that, and our character is not a mage, so that'll be useless to us. And we can also move as well, but we don't really need that for that. But we'll use it anyway because that seems like the best thing to do for this round. So our initiative is 9, 10. And here we've got an initiative of +4. So our initiative is 14, which is much higher than the maximum of 10. So we'll just put it as 10. So currently, you are going to attack one of these, and our assassin is going to hide. What is our Dark Mage going to do? Our Dark Mage, I'm just going to grab one of these golden blocks, is probably going to steal life. Even though he's attacking something that isn't alive, it still works. Don't ask questions. So that will target one adjacent enemy. So it's important when we look at these, the one adjacent enemy, that we understand where adjacent areas are. So these enemies are in the frontal spawn, so they're adjacent to the front. This enemy here is adjacent to the right spawn. Nothing is adjacent to this guy right now. There's no one around him here. So pretty much places that are next to each other are adjacent. So the back is adjacent to the center. This is an enemy spawn here, which is adjacent to the center. Left to left, front to front, and that kind of thing. So because he is adjacent to the skeleton, we can indeed attempt to use the Steal Life. So that gives us an initiative of 5 and 0, which means it's 5. This is the modifier. And let's have a little look. So I think we're going to also do Slink Away, which is a bonus to Subterfuge, which we're not using. That's what the Assassin's doing. Ironic that the Assassin is the only one who didn't get a Subterfuge roll action card, but the reason that they're random at the start is to teach you the value of them. To see someone else play something and think, I could have really done with that, and then you kind of realize what your character needs. Well, that's the idea anyway. So that's got an initiative modifier of -1. So our initiative for the Dark Mage is 4. 5, no modifier, and 1. So, or -1 even. So you go on 4. So we have planned our character's actions. So currently, this character, the Paladin, has chosen to attack an adjacent enemy. They don't have to say which enemy they are going to attack. In this case, it'll make a little difference, but they can, if they want, decide on their turn when they're going to, which enemy they're going to attack. You don't have to declare. Now we have to find out when the enemies are going to attack. So we look at the top left and see that all of these enemies are black enemies. So they're all represented by this token, and they have initiative modifier of -5. So we draw a card for them. I'm actually just going to move these unused tokens out the way. And their initiative is -4. But you cannot get less than 1 for starting initiative. 0 is used for other effects, which will come into the game later, or may do. So it can't be less than 1, and it can't be more than 10. So now we have our turn order. So let's do the orange player first, which is the Assassin. So the Assassin on their turn is going to hide. So we have to make a subterfuge roll. If the number of successes equals or exceeds the number of active enemies, move to the hidden area. So what does all that mean? Well, if we look at that character's abilities, we see there's a section called Subterfuge with 4 green blocks. So these blocks here represent the different colored dice in the game and what our character will roll when called to roll upon various different abilities. In this case, Subterfuge is 4 green dice. So we just get 4 green dice, which are up here. It's kind of handy. And we'll roll them here. And so what we're trying to do is, if the number of successes equals or exceeds the number of active enemies. So the active enemies are the number of enemies on the board, but not in enemies waiting. So in this case, 3. So we're going to roll these and see what we get. Okay, that's actually a very, very good roll. So the blanks is obviously nothing. We didn't roll any of those. We rolled 3 circles. They're 1 each, and a star, which is 2, for a total of 5. 5 successes is more than 3, so our character can move to the hidden area. Plump. So while in the hidden area, our character will not be targeted by enemies. They make certain attacks, which is what he's going to do. If I want to stay there, I've got to make more subterfuge tests, so I've got to hide again. Otherwise, I'll have to go over here. And this is the bad space. We'll get to that in a bit, probably. And maybe join the party with a move. But right now, we're just kind of chilling there. He'll be fine. The Paladin is now going to make her move. So she is going to do a quick strike attack, which means that she rolls 4 blue dice against 1 adjacent enemy. We don't really have to declare which one because they're both the same. And sometimes the action card will give us a bonus to attack, but not this time. So we'll get our 4 blue dice and roll them and see what we get. 2. All right, 2. Now we roll our enemy's defense. So our enemy has 1 white dice in defense. So let's roll that and see what the enemy gets. Nothing. So 2 successes against 0 defense means that 2 lives or 2 damage has been done. So 2 health is removed. In this case, the skeleton has 2 lives. So the skeleton is dead. Again, if I'd have rolled 1 on there, it would have done 1 damage. So the skeleton would have still been alive. And it would have represented damage via a grey block. So if it was this skeleton she attacked and only did 1 damage, we'd put a grey block there to show that 1 point of health was had been removed. Well done, Paladin. Next in the initiative order, it's to note as well that no, she doesn't have a move. So if she had a move, she could have moved as well, but she didn't, so it's fine. So the brown player, the dark mage, is going to now steal life. So this requires an axe roll, targets an adjacent enemy. So we are adjacent to this skeleton, so we can attack them with the steal life. Targeted enemy loses as many health as successes roll. Direct damage. Direct damage means that the enemy will not be able to roll in defense against it. The dark mage heals half of this amount, rounding down. Currently we're in max health, so it's not going to heal, but it will do the damage. So the axe roll, we can see here there is 2 green dice in axe. So we're going to grab those, roll them, count the successes, which is 1. So that did 1 damage to the skeleton. The skeleton has 2 health, so we can actually now use this block to show that 1 health has been inflicted on it. That's all of our characters' turns, so now it is the enemy's turns. So we'll go around the board clockwise and finish in the center. And how the enemies behave is that they will attack the enemy in front of them, or the area in front of them, which is, in this case, the front. If there was no one in the front, they would attack the center. And if there was no one in the front or center, then they would attack the whole board. If there's ever a choice between targets, they will attack the character with the lowest initiative. But right now, the skeleton is just attacking the paladin. Rolls 1 dice in attack, 1 white dice, so we'll roll that. And we got nothing. So the paladin does not need to defend against that. The skeleton is also attacking the dark mage. And again, nothing. So the enemies do nothing. Now we come to a new round. Well, this is the end of the round. So at the end of the round, we gather up the initiative cards and put them back into the deck and give them a shuffle. There should be 11 in the deck. We take these off because we'll have a new order depending on what initiative cards are drawn and what our heroes try to do. Also, with the action cards, they'll have something at the bottom here. This one says may not be used next turn, which literally means that they cannot use it next turn. So as they used it last turn, they can't use it this turn. So we'll just pop it down here. This one says may not be used again this encounter. This encounter means the entire duration of the fight. So we're going to turn that over and put it to one side. And this one equally says may not be used again this encounter. So we cannot use that again for this fight. So we're limiting our options. There are some more powerful action cards that say may not be used again at all, and they're removed from the game when they're used. Okay, so now our characters can plan other things. So because we've used this, we replace the white with a grey to show that one of our finite actions has been used, and the same here. But with the assassin, he hid. And because you can hide any number of times, we don't have to place the grey block there because this is free to be used again. Now our assassin has a plan here. Our assassin is now going to use a backstab attack. Can only be made from hidden. So as you can see, our assassin is hidden. So we're gonna do this, and we'll worry about the rest of that when it happens. But can only be made from hidden. Targets one active enemy. So we can do that. We're also going to play. Oh wait, no, we didn't do the. The first thing we do is do initiative cards. You got a 7. Okay, that's not going to change his plan at all. He was always going to do that regardless. A 5 and a 1. Okay. So start initiative 7. We have a +3 there. When you use ready for anything. For a -3, which brings the assassin's initiative back down to 7. So now is a probably good time to mention this. With this ready for anything, it says grants a bonus of 2 blue dice to all rolls. So every single roll this character does will gain a bonus of 2 dice. But that only comes into effect once it's the character's turn. So, for example, this would increase our character's defense, but only after they have activated. So if this character is attacked before it's their turn, this does not come into effect. It only does so when it's their turn to activate it, hence it being like an action card. Alright, so now we can do something else with the Paladin. So what we're going to do with the Paladin, I think, we started with an average initiative of 5. We're going to do a feint attack. The feint attack also lets us move as well. Last time we couldn't move because we didn't have a move queued, but this time, if we want to, we can. So this means that if the assassin kills the enemy that's in front of us, over here, we can move to maybe attack this one. When you move, you can move anywhere in the party formation. You can even move to the separated area if you want. Separated is a area outside the party formation where all enemies will attack you. You will receive a penalty to all rolls, but you can steal some loot, otherwise you have to share it. So there might be a temptation for greedy players to go and get some loot. Maybe at the end of a fight. So we're going to do a feint attack, so I can move there. We're going to queue one of these. Let's do this because it gives us a bonus to all rolls. So when we do make the attack, we do get a bonus of 2 white dice, but it does impact our initiative because currently our initiative is 5, -3 is 2, and our feint attack has 0 initiative modifier. So our initiative for the Paladin is only 2. So the Paladin is planning on going late and mopping up, pretty much. But our poor old Dark Mage has an initiative of 1. So what can the Dark Mage do? Not so much, honestly. We'll have to... I mean, the Dark Mage is next to the skeleton, so the Dark Mage... We could do another Steal Life. Yeah, let's do another Steal Life, because there is a possibility that that skeleton goes before us. And if it does, it might do damage. So if we manage to steal life, then we can get that health back. So we'll do a low strike as well. That also gives us an ability to move and gives us a bonus to attack rolls. But we're not going to do that. I mean, we might be better off actually doing an attack. Then we'll roll more dice. But if we do get hits, we're not going to be able to heal that. So these are the kind of decisions where we'll have to make. But I think because it only has 1 health left, the steal life is probably better. And if our skeleton that we're attacking does die, we can move during our turn. So our initiative for the Dark Mage is 1, -1, and nothing. So it's nothing, but it can't go to nothing. So it is 1. Now we draw initiative card for the 2 skeletons. We -5 from it, and we get a 2. So when there's a draw in initiative between a player and an enemy, the enemy will always go first, hence us putting the enemy on top of the player. If 2 players are drawn, then they can choose between them who goes first. Oh, and if 2 enemies are tied, then it's determined by their initiative modifier. For example, this ghoul has a modifier of +1, so it would go before the skeleton if they were tied on the tracker. Let's see how this all plays out. First of all, the orange player, the assassin, is going to go first. So we're going to do a backstab attack. Let's see how this works. Targets 1 active enemy, which needs to roll a black die in its defense roll. The assassin is placed in the area in front of the enemy once the attack occurs, and his initiative is reduced to 0. Quite a lot going on there, isn't there? So what this pretty much means is that because we're hidden, we can do this backstab attack. And we're going to target 1 active enemy. Now, because this enemy has not been hurt, and this is a strong attack, we're going to attack that skeleton. The assassin is placed in the area in front of the enemy once the attack occurs, and his initiative is reduced to 0. So I'm going to place him in front of it and reduce his initiative to 0, which means he's more likely to be attacked now, but the attack should, you'd think, kill the skeleton. Let's see how this works. So we have to roll 1, 2, 3, 4 green dice, plus we get the 2 blue dice from the action card. Oh, not yet. So we'll roll this first. And we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A good hit. As we say here, it needs to roll 1 black die in its defense roll. So this is the first time we've rolled one of these dice, which are known as a fail dice. You see that it's got X's on some of its sides. The black dice has an X on 3 of its sides, the purple has an X on 2 of its sides, and the red has an X on 1 of its side. And what it does is that if we roll an X as part of this roll, then it cancels out every single success. So it doesn't matter if we were rolling every dice in the game. It doesn't matter if we were rolling this. If we rolled an X along with this, then it would be a result of 0. So nothing on either, which pretty much means that the skeleton rolled 0 for its defense. The assassin got 5, so it's 5 damage done. So the skeleton is dead, and we're going to put it over here. Next, we have the enemy's go. So this skeleton is going to attack the Dark Mage. Let's roll 1 white dice in attack, and it misses. So next is the dark blue player, which is the Paladin. So the Paladin wisely queued up a move. Oh wait, here. Queued up a move. Well, actually, she queued up 2 moves, but you can only ever use 1, so this one was superfluous. But regardless, she can move. So she's going to move here on the right hand side, so she can attack the skeleton. And she's going to make her attack roll, which is 1, 2, 3 blue, plus the determined stance gives her 2 white dice. Let's grab a couple of those as well and give this a roll. And we scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quite a lot. Also, enemy receives a red die on their defense roll against this attack. It seems a little bit pointless rolling this, considering we know it's dead. It's got 1 health left, but we'll roll it anyway. And both came with nothing, but it's lost enough health to kill it. So we'll do that. Now that concludes the encounter. Our characters are victorious. Hooray, well done to them. So what happens at the end of an encounter? Bit of generic housekeeping to start with. And then we'll consult our little quick start guide. Or reference sheet. Alright, so combat summary, ending a round. Ending an encounter. Well, we should end the round as well. So the Dark Mage, if they want, can do their turn, but there's nothing for them to attack. But if they had a heal queued up, for example, or something like that, then they might want to take their turn regardless. But because there's nothing for them to do, we can safely say that they just skip their turn. There's nothing they can do to alter anything. So we'll treat it as the end of a round and put them away. Alright, so ending an encounter. Revive any KO'd characters to 1 health. No one has been KO'd, no one even suffered any damage, so well done to our characters for that. Though this was only the beginner enemy encounter. Reveal the loot cards only if the enemies were defeated. Well, they were. So we killed the 3 white enemies, so we get 3 party loot of the white color. Let's see what we get. So we get 1 party loot. So the party loot cards are divided into half. So the top part shows party loot, which is pretty much wealth that they can spend on things. Whoops. So I'm going to put a party loot into the party loot space. And also there's a chest. It requires a subterfuge test on 2 that may only be attempted once before the locksmith is needed. Contains 1 blue party loot card. So again, quite a lot going on there. We might actually come back to that once we've done the other loot. We've also got just 1 party loot there. And nothing at all. Okay, so we can put these back in the deck. So there's a chest. Requires a subterfuge test that may only be attempted once. So what that's saying is that a character who's good at subterfuge can attempt to pick the lock, otherwise a locksmith is needed. The locksmith is found in the home space. We'll get to that in a little bit. For now, we might as well try this. There's not a lot of point not doing it. We just have to find a character who's good at subterfuge. Well, would you look at that? The assassin is the best at subterfuge. He has 4 green dice. The paladin has a purple, which is a fail dice. She's not very good at subterfuge at all, wearing big clunky armor and all, and 2 white dice. And then the dark mage has 3 white dice, so not too bad, but the assassin is far, far better. So we're going to roll this, and we're going to try and get the indicated number, which is 2, and we only got 1. So the assassin failed to open the lock, so we have to take that as an item, and so we can ask the locksmith to open that, and it will contain 1 blue party loot. So if we open that, we can take one of these cards, which is a little bit better because it's the next tier of loot, or at least it should be. Should be better. You never know. So we'll think about that. What is next? We've done the looting. We can now add grit to characters depending on the majority color of enemies defeated. So we defeated white enemies. There was 3 white enemies. That's obviously the majority. So we gain 1 grit per character. So each character gains 1 grit. If they had no grit, they would get 1. So that means that we're a little bit closer to an upgrade via grit, but also means that we can now re-roll green dice and purple dice with the 2 grit that we have, as well as using 1 grit to re-roll blue, white, and red dice. So if I rolled a red dice and it came up with a fail, I could spend 1 to re-roll it, and if it got a fail again, I could spend the other 1. So we awarded grit. Alright. Add and swap action cards. So as I mentioned before, we can change around our action cards at the end of the encounter, and this is where we do that. So first of all, we add action cards onto the board equal to the number of enemies and the color of enemies. So there's 3 white in this case, so we get 3 white action cards. So now our players can swap and change action cards as they wish, but you have to have a hand of 3 at the end of it. Sometimes characters will have a hand of 4, depending on upgrades they get, but usually it's 3. So let's have a little look. So we've got another axe one there, we've got a movement there with a +3 initiative, and just a move there as well. So some of our characters have things that they really don't benefit from. For example, the Dark Mage here has this subterfuge. You have this subterfuge, right? We're going to get rid of Skulker for you because I think that you might need this, but the Assassin doesn't need the arc rolls, and the Paladin does have some spells for arcs, so why don't we just swap those like that? So both players must agree to all swaps, but they're usually mutually beneficial. The short respite I don't think our Assassin wants, but there's another subterfuge there, so that's a possibility. We'll put that in here. Our Dark Mage has arc rolls and a movement. This is just better than reposition, does the same thing. We can ignore the activates at the start of your turn. They always activate at the start of the turn. That's something from an old version, but some of them have it, some of them don't, but you can just take as read that they all activate at the start of the turn. So why don't we give the Assassin the Slink Away? I think our Paladin's happy with the ones that she has. And then we can give Move Fast to the Dark Mage. Because the Dark Mage doesn't have any moves on their actions at all. There's no main move here at all. Whereas here, you've got one there, and that's kind of it. And then here, you've got one there, you've got one here. So some characters are more mobile than others. And because the Dark Mage doesn't seem that mobile on their actions, we can have moves, and moves on their action cards to make up for it. We should also have said that all these get removed now. These are all available for the next time that the combat starts. Then we didn't do this. I missed one. Upgrade characters. Okay, so every encounter that we get, we can upgrade our characters. We could have done this earlier. I don't think it would matter too much, but there's a reason why you do this before anything else, because of course we've been rolling dice and stuff, and we can increase their characters' dice depending on what upgrades they get. For example, our Dark Mage has lost the first upgrade. We have to upgrade in this order, so top to bottom. And the Dark Mage gains 2 blue dice to Nerve, Charm, and Awareness, making the Dark Mage a more well-rounded character. So we see here, there's a couple of grey squares around. We can replace them with blue blocks now. Just the blue ones, thank you. You can go away. Thank you for your help, but I don't need it. So, gains 2 blue dice to Nerve, Charm, and Awareness. So if we look now, our Nerve increases from 2 white to 2 white and 2 blue. Awareness goes up as well, as does Charm. So currently, our Dark Mage is suddenly a lot better at all this kind of stuff. We'll do the other ones as well. So the upgrade for the Paladin, the first one, the first attack made towards the Paladin each round rolls a purple die, which means there's a 1 in 3 chance that the first attack against the Paladin each round will completely fail. That's kind of nice. As far as the Assassin goes, his new ability is that all defense rolls made against the attacks by the Assassin are rolled with a red die. So every single attack made by the Assassin makes the enemy roll a red die. So 1 in 6 of his attacks will generate a fail. That is in addition to any other dice that may be accrued, such as the black die with the backstab. Suddenly, You know, the assassin is quite good at getting through defenses, which makes sense. Alright, we've pretty much done everything I think that we need to do there, so now we have a bit of a choice. Now that we don't need these, we can put them back in the deck. Thank you. We could, if we want, go home. And let's just check out the home space. So here, we can spend our loot to get upgrades and such. So the healer, we can visit the healer, will restore lost health at the cost of 2 loot per health point. We only have 2 loot right now, so that's all we can do, but no one has been injured. They can also remove injuries at the cost of 6 loot. So when a character is KO'd, they will incur an injury, which is on their character sheet, and you can remove the injury with the cost of 6 loot. Let's have a little look at one of those while we're here. So here are the injuries. So when our character is knocked out and reduced to 0 health, then they get an injury, and the injuries that the assassin could get is roll an additional red die during all rolls made. So every single roll that the assassin makes, roll a red die, 1 in 6 chance of failing, or subterfuge dice are changed from green to blue. This is a downgrade, so it's the opposite thing that happened to the dark mage. We replace these with blue, and it means that the assassin is a little bit less good at hiding. So the player would choose one of these, but they can be removed with 6 health and a visit to the healer. We can go to the informant to get some valuable information, and I think we'll actually do this. The cost is 2 loot plus 2 valuable information already known. Well, we don't know any because we haven't touched on that yet, so we'll get some valuable information for 2 loot. But first we'll have a look at this. The trainer can upgrade any character for 8 loots. We have to have 8 loot. We can just unlock an upgrade without the need to spend grit, or we can add or increase a dice on a character sheet for 4 loot per tier increase. So what that means pretty much is that if we have a blue dice, we can increase it to a green dice for 4 loot. The locksmith, which is for the chest, will automatically open any locked chest at the cost of 5 loot. So if you want to, we can unlock that chest for 5 loot, but we only have 2. But as I say, we're going to get some valuable information for 2 loot. So we're going to discard this loot, off you go, and we will unlock our first tier of valuable information. So this is a resource of rumors, whispers. You may have found, or at least case bought a map of the area, or some other such thing, which gives our characters another bonus, and they can choose the bonus whenever they want. So I'm going to redo how this is presented, and I'm probably going to move the home onto the board as well, so it's not a separate sheet. So this bottom half will probably be redesigned, but pretty much valuable information. You can pick one of these things at the start of an encounter before any dice are rolled or cards are drawn to decide what we want to do. So we can reduce the number of blue enemies drawn by 1, reducing the number of enemies, or we can add a blue party loot card to the encounters and we give ourselves more loot, or we can give ourselves a global blue die in the next encounter. So that's what this is up here. You'll notice this global modifier. What that would do is put a blue die here for that encounter, and that means that every single roll the Dark Mage would make would be made using an additional blue die. But as we get more valuable information, we can unlock better things, so we can spend 3 valuable information to get a green loot into the counter, or give the characters a global orange die, which is the best sort of die in the game, and that kind of thing. We've almost reached the end of the video. We've done an entire combat, but I want to just move on to other areas of the adventure map. So we can see it splits here into 2 different directions, and then it goes into some weird looking rooms, if you like. So the red border means that that is an area that has to be encountered over and over again. If it's got a black border, like the beginner area here, it means that the we've essentially just gone home. Means that it's done now. We can never encounter that again, which could be good or it could be bad. Whereas this room here means that we can encounter it over and over again. So we can pretty much fight these enemies again and again. Different enemies each time. As much as we want. But what are these areas here? So say we're going to go this way, right? We'll go this way. We hit this area here. This is a smaller light grey room with a 1 in it. So this is an event. And events are out of combat events, pretty much. Encounters. Well, not really encounters, because encounters are combats. But they're just things that happen outside of the arena of combat that may affect it. So say we've gone that way, we draw an event, and we'll see what we get. We get the Ghost of Ill Omens. The spirit offers you a choice, and neither is good. So all characters must either, this is all characters, instantly lose a total combined wealth equal to the number of characters, or sacrifice all of their party loot and current items. So it's good that we got this early. So what this is saying is we can either lose 3 loot, well, we don't have any, or we have to sacrifice all of their party loot and current items. So if we had 3 here, we'd obviously do that. But if we don't, so we've got to give away everything. The only thing we have is this chest, which we can put back into here. So thank you, Ghost of Ill Omens, that was very good of you. Other events are things such as a treasure chamber. So this is a good one. Add 1 blue party loot card to the next encounter. But they're not all good. For example, the Flooded Passage. I'm trying to find one that gives us a... there's one, give us some health. There we go. Wake the Dead. So we'll say we've got this one. The characters take a collective subterfuge test, 1 per character. So what that means is that all characters must take a subterfuge test. So all characters roll what they have in subterfuge, and we've got to get 1 success per character. So that doesn't mean each character has to get 1 success. It means we have to get a success per character. So in this case, 3. The interesting thing with this is that, sure, all right, so the assassin just rolls and gets 2 successes there, and then the dark mage rolls. They're 3. Oops. And gets 1. Okay, there you go. Sorted. But the paladin has a purple die in subterfuge. So if they happen to roll a fail, which they did, that means the entire roll is 0. However, she can re-roll it with this. She can spend 2 grit to say, okay, I'll actually re-roll that and see if we don't get a fail, and we did. So that would mean Wake the Dead, spawn additional blue enemies in the next encounter equal to the number of characters, so that's 3 blue enemies, before the regular encounter begins. These enemies will provide no loot or grit gain, so that's really bad. So that's a good example about how events can affect combat and why events can be pretty bad. So other things like knowledge and charm and nerve can be used in events, especially charm. Knowledge is also used against certain enemies if they're if they might have a weak point the character can spot. Nerve is used against frightening enemies such as ghosts and terrifying demons and things like that. So all of these have particular uses in the game. We're going to set up the next encounter, but we're not going to play it because we're reaching the end of the video. But I want to demonstrate how this works. So say we go up here. The first thing that we do is set up our characters in a party formation. We'll do the same thing, it worked for us last time. But what do all these things mean? So we've got an equal sign, a couple zeros, a -5. Okay, so each of these colors represents the different tiers of enemies. The beginner enemies, by the way, will never be used again. We can get rid of that. As soon as you've played that encounter, these cards are kind of meaningless. You won't have to play this unless you have some new players who you want to take through the game again. So we've got white, blue, green, and orange enemies. So the equal sign is equals to the number of enemies. So in this case, there's an equal number of white enemies to the characters. There are 0 blue enemies and 0 orange enemies, and -5 green enemies. So that means equal to the number of characters -5, which is -2. So there are apparently no green enemies, but there's always at least one. So what this -5 is saying is that there's one green enemy, pretty much. So we'll pick the green enemy. And we'll set it up as we would normally. So these enemies go on first. So the undead slinger goes at the front. Now this is a ranged attack. That means that they skip the initial attacking adjacent, go straight for the center or the rest of the board. We've got a screaming skull that does direct damage, so that cannot be defended against. And another screaming skull, but it's one at the back. The green enemy suddenly is a lot more full of dice and stuff. The Hag Sorceress spawns at the back. And let's just see what the Hag Sorceress does. The Hag will always move clockwise if ever will do so at the start of her turn. When she attacks using green dice, she does direct damage and heals health equal to the damage she deals. May not exceed her base health. So we can see there that the Hag Sorceress is a pretty nasty enemy. She'll keep moving around the board, draining health and healing herself. So that's a good example of a higher tier enemy. Also a purple enemy with a -3 initiative. Alright, so I hope that helped, that little hour-long playthrough. So next our players would go there and fight the single orange enemy. They could go here repeatedly and level up more, so they get all their upgrades before they fight the orange enemy, which is the boss. It's up to them how they play this one. I have been coughing throughout this, but I've been muting myself. It seems I'm coming down with something, so bad timing to record this, but I think apart from that, this has gone fairly well. If you have any questions or anything like that, do put them in the comments. And like I said, all the links to the rules and this module and everything else is in the description as well. I would like to thank you all very much for watching this. Hopefully you enjoyed it, you found it fun, or at the very least interesting and informative. And I will hopefully see you in the future for more Deep Deadly Dungeons content. And if you play this, do get back to me about how you think it went. Any feedback is good feedback, and I'm really keen to get other people's perspectives on it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Toodaloo.